Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. It's really nice to see everyone in person. So, better integration for learning management. So far this morning, we've principally dealt with integration from the perspective of ACMS, integration within ACMS. However, it's important that we look at this towards external systems as well. And as we have a learning management system within our own product suite, it makes sense for us to start there. So strengthening the relationship between ACMS, our competence management system, and Assessbook, our learning management system, is a key area in which we think we can develop. The aim of this is to improve the integration and to ultimately link competence data with learning records. And as part of this discussion today, we're going to be looking at improved usability of Assessbook as well. So what we have so far, if you're using both Assessbook and ACMS at the moment, you'll know that we do have an integration that already exists. So this looks like, at the moment, we've got an Assessbook tab that you can access on the candidate dashboard of ACMS. From this, you can view enrolment and login statistics for individual candidates, and you can also see course activity, their results, statuses, all of that. We've also got some bespoke reporting that links the two systems. We've created this so that you can obtain further information, you can interrogate the results that you get in Assessbook, and you can link that all in with their competence. And finally, we have built a custom SCORM package plugin. And essentially, this maps criteria from one system to the other so that we can pull all of that data through and we can put it all into one competence record. This is exclusive to SCORM packages, which is a way of completing assessments in the LMS. And whilst this is a comprehensive start, we believe more can be done on both systems to create a fully holistic ecosystem to inform competence, safety, and risk for those working in the railway industry. So what is this vision that we have for this integration? Ultimately, it's to integrate learning and competence pathways, and we're going to look at 3 ways in which we can achieve that today. So the first of these is through integrating schedules. The second is by integrating assessments. And finally, we're going to look at better visualization in ACMS. So let's start with integrating schedules. At the moment, you'll be familiar with this picture of schedules in ACMS. They look a little bit like this. So we've got a fixed schedule that's comprised of individual schedule periods, and we map criteria to each of those periods. And that's all competence-based. We're not being informed of anything from the learning management system. But what we would like to do is to develop this picture. And the idea is that we could link e-learning courses from the learning management system and also training days as well. So we could mark all of that off as part of the same competence cycle, because all of those events ultimately inform someone's competence, what they're at risk of doing in future. So that's how we are thinking about integrating schedules. In addition to this model, we think that we could use this to just have learning events that are separate from the competence cycle. So if someone went on to, say, like a training course, we could have that as like an isolated ad hoc intervention. And that would be useful for training, for onboarding, or just refreshing knowledge. Next, we're going to look at integrating assessments. So there are going to be a couple of different ways that we look at doing that from this one slide. So in Assessbook, we've got items like activities or courses, and in ACMS, we've got assessments and configurable resources. So we talked a little bit already about how we've got that criteria mapping SCORM plugin that already exists. But what if we expand that to capture other activity types? So in Assessbook, it's possible to create quizzes that are just native to the platform. It doesn't require any content to be built separately and added. That's all then in there and it's specifically for making assessments. And the idea is that we could map the results from that to assessments. The next part of the integration is automating assessments. So what if you completed an assessment on the learning management system, and this automatically created and populated an assessment in the competence cycle on ACMS? So the idea is that it would create a draft assessment against which the levels would already be set against the criteria items. We would have mapped all of that out. And then it just takes an assessor to intervene at that final stage to sign it off, yes, no, competent, and add some feedback. The next way we'd like to integrate is by linking activities and courses to configurable resources. So at the moment, it's possible to do things like maybe a fire awareness course on the learning management system. And often we see that ACMS users are tracking fire awareness or fire safety as a resource. What if you could sign it off in the LMS and that then signs you off for that resource in ACMS? That would then just follow the expiry dates that we've set, and ultimately that would just create a loop where you keep going back around to renew that competence in fire safety. And finally, it's all been about Assessbook going to ACMS so far, but what if we can get data from ACMS to go over into Assessbook? And the idea here is that an assessor, during their feedback, if there are some review items, they could direct someone towards some e-learning content or a bit of training that's hosted in the LMS. And they could all do that from the assessments that they're carrying out. So it's just one big loop to get them back into the LMS to look at learning content that then signs off their competence. And then finally, we've got better visualization on ACMS. So to carry out all of those changes, we definitely need a better way of representing that data in Assessbook. So the first thing we'd like to do is just redesign the look and feel of the Assessbook tab. At the moment, it's just basically a list, courses, activities, but we want to make this a little bit more engaging, a little bit more efficient for assessors to use, and so that we can get a bit more reporting out of that tab as well. And what we'd like to see is that items like programs, which are linked courses, certifications, which are renewable courses, seminars, which could be training days, competencies, which we could connect to resources, and even badges when you complete courses, all of that just in that tab as well. At the moment, it's just courses. We want a bit more content there. So that's it so far on what the plan is. Does anyone have any questions so far?
I've got a couple of good ones here on the app.
No, good ones.
No, it's nice. So this is from Bertil at Eurostar. Could Assessbook, I think the answer to this is yes, but I'll let you answer. Could Assessbook feed directly on a specific period on ACMS, i.e. when somebody takes a quiz on Assessbook, the question is linked to a criteria on ACMS, and based on the answer, the criteria is automatically assessed?
Yes, yeah, that's the plan, to kind of broaden that.
So there's a bit of detail there, though. The assessment it creates would be draft. An assessor would have to sign it because there's a very important principle here, and that is the system is not a qualified assessor. Mm-hmm. So yes to that one. There's one here that Andrew Taylor put on earlier from the previous session that I didn't ask because it's more appropriate to this session. Yeah. One of the more tiresome tasks for trainers is scanning in paper-based assessments. If we convert paper assessments into Assessbook-based assessments, by which I assume he means quizzes, would it be possible to automatically attach the completed and marked assessment to the relevant period in the trainee's schedule when the trainer creates an ASS or ACMS assessment in that period?
I suppose technically the automated assessment would be that report.
Yeah, in fact, the trainer wouldn't need to create it, would they? No. They would automatically get the draft one.
Yeah, we'd just kind of remove that part of the process.
So hopefully, Andrew, that answers your question. That is, in fact, the plan. If it doesn't, I'm sure you can raise another one. Bertil, what is the timescale for this development?
Oh no, the dreaded question.
So the short answer is we don't know, because part of today is about testing the water and seeing if people like the ideas. But In that case, next week. Hang on, I just closed a question I didn't mean to close. I can't find it now. Apologies. If I failed to answer a question you just asked, could you please ask it again? That was the one I meant to close. That one's closed. Another question from Andrew Taylor. Hannah knows this question is coming. Brace yourself, Hannah. We've had lots of problems with SCORM-based assessments losing connection with the LMS and response going missing. What progress are you making with an app from downloading the SCORM assessment, completing offline when the connection is unstable? Well, Andrew, I'm going to say watch this space, because in about 3 slides' time, you're going to find out.
Yeah. But that's also it's a good reason why we've been a bit hesitant about expanding this integration. At the moment, that data isn't super reliable, and we needed a solution in place for that before we proceeded. So I think we're in a much better place to do it now.
Okay, and I have a question from Pete Dempsey. Are there plans to link Assessbook and ACMS to a company's HR database? Yes, there are, Peter, but I'm going to pick that one up in a session in about 2 sessions' time, if that's all right with you. So I'll leave that one open. Would it be possible to log? Sorry, this is Annabelle Marks. Would it be possible to log in as a manager or assessor and allow a candidate to complete a quiz by simply selecting the profile and completing? Not all our staff have emails, but they would really benefit from this. Okay, Annabelle, so I'm going to say, if you want your people to use systems, they have to have email addresses. It's a fundamental security requirement. You'd be open to all sorts of trouble if you logged in as them and then let them do it, I'm afraid. Sorry, pop it. Okay, I'm going to let you carry on.
Yeah. Cool. So at the very top, we talked about improved usability as well as what we're going to do to better integrate the 2 systems. And ultimately, what we want to do is create a better experience for the end user. And we have 2 ways in which we are kind of starting that process. The first of these is through Totara version 13 and onwards. So Assessbook is built on a piece of software that's built by a company called Totara, and they're kind of the top learning management system providers. So we're kind of following their model. We're going to look at that in a bit more detail, and we're also going to be looking at mobile apps, which is probably the most interesting development that we've been making. So let's start with Totara version 13. It's worth mentioning that at this point, to successfully develop and implement a greater integration, we need to be sure that the support for the LMS is good enough, that it's at a good, strong level. And this is actually the first user forum since we became Totara Platinum Partners, which was really exciting earlier this year. With that, it means we have a much closer tie to Totara as an organization. We can request features directly. So if there are changes that need to be made to the learning management system, we're kind of one of the top people to ask those questions now. So what we've been doing of late, you might have seen, we've been building new integration platforms for all of our Assessbook customers. And this in-platform follows our CMS model, in which we have the very latest version on that platform. So we've got Totara version 13 there. This will enable customers to do some acceptance testing, check functionality, see what's of interest to them in future updates. As of version 13, Totara have changed their model slightly. So up until version 13, it was just one learning management system. That's all they offered. And now that's been broken down into 3 modules. So we've got Learn, which handles the learning management aspects. That's kind of the core functionality, and a lot of that has been carried across from version 12. We've got Totara Perform, which handles performance management specifically. And we've got Totara Engage, which is all about learning experience. So they've kind of split all of that out. With that model comes a change to pricing as well, unfortunately. So that's kind of been dictated down to us. It does mean that each of these modules are priced individually. However, we will honour the move from version 12 to at least version 13 Learn, which is it's a very similar product. So it means that overall it's mostly cost neutral. There's no added costs unless you'd like those extra modules. And with that, we have also implemented a new theme for a cleaner look and feel. And it looks a little bit like this. So this is our login page. And this is what it will look like to a learner when they're trying to access their courses. So it will be laid out in a much neater way. And next we've got our mobile apps. So as Andrew rightly pointed out, we have had lots of issues with SCORM packages passing along data to the learning management system. So if the SCORM package is quite long, it does mean that sometimes candidates do lose some of the work that they've been completing. And that's incredibly frustrating, and we absolutely understand that that's not really acceptable. So what we've been doing is initially we've evaluated the free app that has been released by Totara to go with version 13. And having tested it, we found that it doesn't really resolve that issue. There are still problems with it. So we're not really happy to proceed with it on that basis. But what we have been doing since is we've been doing a little bit of market research with the help of Daniel Prius at National Express, actually, to find a better solution. And that better solution, we believe, is from a company called Mobile Learning, who produced the mLearn app. They're a company based in Australia, and their whole product is basically to resolve this issue. And their tagline is that they provide the most robust offline mobile SCORM player for Totara Learn. And in our experience, we agree. So the benefits of this product: it provides an offline experience, which is very closely aligned with what we do with ASS. So the idea is that you could download your content, you could watch it offline, and then you can sync it all back up. So there's no opportunity to lose that data. It's all completed offline, and then we just sync it back in. And this completely resolves issues with lost work. It's compatible with Totara version 12 at the moment, and it will be forward compatible with 13 onwards. And the most important thing is that you don't have to make any changes to your SCORM packages. It just works with what you've already got. So no changes to content from your perspective. There are some drawbacks. So as they're a partner organization, they have their own pricing model, and it isn't free, unfortunately. And there would be a need to distribute this through your company mobile device management service. However, we're quite used to doing that for our apps, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem, but there is that extra step we have to get engaged with. With all that in mind, we've got another live poll. So would you deploy a mobile learning app to complement Assessbook? Do you have any more questions?
No, I don't. Well, not that are relevant.
Had a countdown timer.
See the time. See the time. Okay, guys, are you all done voting? So on this one, 21 votes for yes if it's free, except we already told you the free one doesn't work. And only 3 votes for as a paid extra. So we perhaps need to talk to those people and think again.
Yeah.
The free one, guys, doesn't work. We tried really hard to make it work. Doesn't work. Okay, I have one question on here. Mm-hmm. Would it be possible to show on ACMS the candidate's on the candidate's profile their progress or percentage completed of assessor verifier courses on ACMS? Hang on, as I was saying it, it disappeared. That's a question from Rachel Gibbons. Oh, I understand what she means. This is the courses they're doing with us, I suspect. So yeah. The short answer to that, Rachel, I'm afraid, is not really, because the assessor courses that you do with AssessTech are on AssessTech's own Assessbook. They're not on your SWR Assessbook. But we need to think about that.
Yeah, it's probably a way that we could incorporate that.
We will have a think about
Yeah.
that. At the moment, because they're on separate systems, no, but we will have I can see why you would want that. We'll have a think about that.
Maybe like a dashboard specific.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we need an AssessTech training tab. Probably have to be a separate tab, I would think.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Hannah.
Cool. No worries.